Welcome guys to my new channel. So finally the day is here when I'm recording my first clip. So I was thinking long about that. So what should be the first content? And so finally I decided we will make a road trip. So the road trip will start tomorrow. It will be a 4 days road trip. We will starting here in Switzerland in Rapperswil, and we will driving. Our destination will be Cannes at the Cote Azur, world famous Cote Azur, everybody know it. So the way until Cannes we'll be doing in 2 steps. So we will starting tomorrow evening after the work is done. I'm coming home, dressed up, jump right into the car, and then we hit the road. So we already booked the hotel for tomorrow evening, and that means we will make our first stop nearby the French border, so already in French, in the French part. And the name of the village, let me see, I forgot it. It's they call it Champs. So maybe I spoke it unwell, but yeah, I'm not a French. So so we will spend the night there. Saturday morning we will then hit the road again, continue our trip to Cannes. And the funny thing about that is we used a car that is not really famous for long travel. So it's more a weekend warrior car, it's more a track day car, but I think that's the funny thing about it, because I'm really curious how well or how bad the car will do it at this trip, and what will be at the end the fazit of the whole story. So it's a sporty car. It's like every sporty car, there is no space to take in some big luggage with you, big trunk. So I'm curious how we will handle this, and I'm also curious how well this car will hit the road, the bad French road, for example. If we got any trouble, if we maybe damage something at the car, or if we will do it well with the car and coming back in one piece, no scratches, no damages at the car. So yeah, that will be really fun to find out. So yeah, I'm sure you're thinking about which car it is. No problem, I will tell it to you. It's the world famous Elise. Was in the 80s the biggest car dealer worldwide for Ferraris. So he was persuaded by Ferruccio Lamborghini 1987 to buy the company Bugatti. So he did it. To add some years later, to be exactly at 1993, the company Lotus to his empire. So because of him we have the legendary Bugatti EB110 and the legendary Lotus Elise. 1994, he gave an order to the engineers of Lotus to engineer a complete new car with the simplicity and the lightness that Colin Chapman always was preached. So, as the car was finally done and they presented 1995 at the IAA in Frankfurt, the name was fixed by his granddaughter Elise. So that was also then the name of the car, Elise. So Julian Thompson and Richard Rackham was 2 of these guys that working for Lotus at this time, and they got the task to produce this new car at the beginning of the 90s for Lotus. So both was good friends and was pride owners and passionate Ducati drivers.
So what they like and try to do is to get the beauty and the simplicity of a Ducati, to transfer it in the design of a car. And so this is the result of the thing. So when you take a look at the Ducati, you see at the first view, this is not a vehicle for transport, this is a toy. This is a vehicle just for fun. The same thing also with the Lotus. You take a look at this car and it's immediately clear, this is not a vehicle for transport, this is a toy. Same thing like the Ducati. So every line, every opening has got a function, because when there will be a function, this opening and this line will be not here at the car and not here, for example, at the motorcycle. So that's what they try to do, and if you take a look, they have success, they made it. Also, Julian Thompson was an owner of a Ferrari Dino at this time, and he loved the shape and also the design of the Ferrari Dino. So what he's trying to do is to make a newer interpretation of this car. And so when you take a look at the Lotus Elise at the front, or here at the side, and also at the back at the lights, you immediately recognize the old-fashioned design from a Ferrari Dino. And if you check, that's what looks so lovely about this car. So it's a modern design, but you got this old racing car flair in this car. Doesn't matter from which angle you take a look, from the front, from the side, you immediately see this Ferrari 60s design shape, so it looks lovely. So let's steal a moment by this design. So we go one step back. So 1993, when they decide to design this new Lotus, they also decide this new Lotus needs to be an homage at the legendary Lotus 7. What means? The car should be an open wheeler and the car should be a step-in car. What means also no doors. After some sketches and some discussions, they decide one thing, okay, it's done with the open wheeler. This car will be not an open wheeler, it will be a sports car with fenders like you got it here, but it will still an step-in car. What means no doors. And so they get for it. They get the design, and that the design was finished, the car was finished, the first design, a guy is coming and find out the car is not legal for the street because of the road traffic secureness regulations. You cannot drive a car, you cannot bring a new car at the market at this time no more without doors. Okay, so they need to go back at the sketchbooks and make a new design, and now a car with doors. The problem about this, the car will be more expensive and the car will be, in case of the doors, more heavier, but this is the only way you can go if you want to drive this car legal at the street. So, like every designer is, when he designs a sport car, if a car needs to have doors, they must be gullwing doors. So, they want to get gullwing doors in this car, but the problem was it will be too expensive, and also it will make the car even more heavier. So at the end, they need to still buy the normal doorway, so how it was here, a simply small, well, nice, elegant, styled door, and it was not the lovely decision they need to do, but it was what it is. So if they want to drive the car at the street, this car needs to be door, and this is what he's got. So I think, if I take a look at this, I like how it looks, I like how it feels, and if you stand in front of the door, you see very, very slim here, and it's getting wider and wider at the end. It's got a nice shape, and it belongs to the car. It's great for it. Still at the end, it looks great. Looks great. All right. After Romano Artioli was seeing how the guys from the design department of Lotus was struggled with the design, and they got so many failures and losing time and money, he was no more sure if the guys will make their goal, and so he also gave the task to the guys of Bugatti. So they bring both houses, Bugatti and Lotus, bring it in a competition position. So they need to make competition at the design between each other. So at the end, the guys of Lotus was winning. So their design was the better design, and at the end it is good. So because at the end it's 100% Lotus. But one thing needs to be said: the development, the major development of this car was not happened by Lotus, it was happened of the house of Bugatti. So because Romano Artioli was sitting there, and the major part was also then made by Bugatti. So at the end, it's also not just Lotus, it's still a little bit Bugatti. Also a funny part, at the month that the Elise was presented, Bugatti was getting involved, but nobody at this point was know how well the Elise will be sailed and how much money the Elise will be bringing in the company. So the money of the Elise was enough to save Lotus, and if they knew this, how well it will go, they also could save Bugatti. But this is another story, because nobody can know this at this time, and so Bugatti is getting involved. So a design is a nice thing, but what is even more important, so design at this case by this car is in my eyes a secondary thing. So what is even more important by this car is how light this car is, and this is that thing that gives you really that good feeling when you drive it. So as I already said, the goal at the beginning was 580 kilo. So at the end, because the doors and other stuff and for the safety regularities, the car was somewhere around 680, 690 to 700 kilograms, plus minus. Everybody tells some other stories about the weight. But doesn't matter. I mean, it's really light. It's lighter than an actual Formula 1 car. I mean, come on, lighter than a Formula 1 car. This is how light this car is. And that's even, if you compare it, for example, to a much modern Alfa Romeo 4C, who doesn't have a monocoque of aluminium, it's got a monocoque of carbon and a much more high-tech modern technology. This car is 940 kilograms, and this one only 700. So it's much heavier than the heaviest it is. Even this car is, you can take two Elises to get one weight of a Porsche Boxer. I mean, imagine that, how light this car is. And so this is where the feeling is coming. When you drive this car, where the feeling is coming, how quick this car at the corners is, how much feedback you get also through the corners. And you can do stuff in the corners with this car that you cannot do with other cars. So the secret behind this is the chassis. So the chassis is extruded with a special aluminium legeric, and it's not welded, it's bonded. It's bonded like aeroplanes. So the same technology, and with this the Lotus guy saves so much weight and make the whole chassis much stiffer. So at the end I need to say that the benchmark that this car sets by me, it's a really high benchmark for the future sports car that I will drive. So the problem is that, I mean, the engineers today, they're trying to get you somehow isolated. They're trying to get the driver somehow isolated from the street to make the car more comfortable, more isolated, so you don't feel the bumps, you don't feel nothing. You feel like you're flying over everything. And I think that's not okay by sports car, because here the engineers that engineered this car, you feel it when you drive the car. They was trying to melt the driver and the car and the street together to get the best possible feedback that you can get. And so at the end, I must say, there is, at the moment in my eyes, no car out there that gives you such a good feeling through the corners. I must say the Lotus Elise, he eats the corners like no other car.